I love stories. That's no surprise if you know me. I love stories. I love learning about people's stories. I love reading about stories. I love history. I love history books. I do. I even got some for Christmas. I'm that guy. And I wonder why I love stories so much. I think it expresses something about the other person that I didn't know. And all through Scripture are these incredible stories. And if you think about it, they're historical stories that we believe in and we trust in, and we look back and we review and we read and we thank God for them. The other day, someone asked me why I like Black History Month, or why I would even celebrate Black History Month. Well, if you know me, then you know that that's part of my story. So I am from a biracial family, and my father was Black, my mother was white. And growing up, I heard a lot of stories in my home from both sides of my family, and I love that. It connected me to our history, which was rich and connected in strange ways, some very sad ways, of both these cultures coming together. But one of the things I realized growing up is that in the educational system, a lot of times I only really heard a lot of one side of the story, one side of my culture's story. And I always had to dig deep and find out some things. And I think it really hit me one day when I was in elementary school, what our educational system was doing. My dad had worked really hard. He was an entrepreneur. And I don't want to say that being an entrepreneur is easy for anybody, but it was especially difficult, I think, for an African American in the 60s and 70s and 80s. But he did really well. He succeeded at really high levels. So it afforded us an opportunity while we were growing up, at least a certain point of our life, to live in probably a pretty affluent area. And I remember bringing my friends home after school, and we were sitting in my kitchen, and one of my friends turned over and says, "Wow, you guys have a lot. Your family must be really rich." And it's like, "You have a swimming pool," and he listed all these things. And I thought, I guess so. You're in elementary school. You don't really know. And then my dad walked through the kitchen, and my friend turned to me and goes, "Yeah, see, now I know for sure you're rich." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "You have a butler." And it didn't really hit me. Like, that's not a butler, that's my dad. And I remember at that moment, my dad and I made eye contact, and there was just like this knowing all of a sudden. It was like generations of story was pouring through his eyes and to my eyes. And I walked away from that conversation just as a young boy realizing, oh, we see the world different. Like, this guy thought, because of the stories he read or heard or thought about Black people, that's the only role they could have. It was impossible for them to maybe own this home and have worked really hard, or to even have earned it legitimately, sadly. And at that point, I just realized that this pursuit of story has been so important to me. And so for a long time, I pursued my own Black history privately, or when my parents were alive, I would talk to them about their journey and what it was like to live in a time of the civil rights where it wasn't even legal for them to be married or to be together. And that just is mind-boggling. And seeing deep sadness in both their eyes as they had to transition and deal with family issues that were connected to their story. Then talking to friends and relatives and aunts and uncles and cousins on both sides of their story. And then my experiences, growing up, whether dating someone in the white community, when they found out I was half Black, that became a problem. And then I dated a girl in the Black community, and when her parents found out I was half white, that was a problem. And all of those things are part of our story. And I found that this private journey of celebrating my history on both sides, that there was still a big lack of the one side of the story. So why do I celebrate Black history? I celebrate it because it's not so much history, it's my story. It's a story that I want to know about. It's a story I want to pass on to my children and to my grandchildren. And it's a story that I don't want to not celebrate, because story is really about knowing one another. Story really is about me getting to know you in a way that I've never known you before. So I celebrate Black history like I would celebrate anybody's history, but I celebrate it pretty personally because it's my story. And so I guess that's all I wanted to share with you as people ask me the question, why do we do this at CCF? Why do we do this as a people? It's because it's our story. And I think it's worth celebrating. And I think your story's worth celebrating. But in this moment, in this season, that's what we like to focus on. So I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for listening to my story. God bless you.